going with that Ari, and unfortunately didn't get to see Dynasty's
We didn't get to see Dynasty.
one-trick pony Ari, but it was banned against him every time, which kind of says a lot about the guy.
Yeah, it does.
But we do see as well, and Evelyn locked it now. Evelyn is a jungler that has been seen some in the competitive scene, but it seems to be kind of a seesaw pick. It's like kind of like Marmite. Some junglers will swear by Evelyn. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, this is the best jungler in the game. Nothing can compare." And then you'll talk to other junglers, and they'll be like, "Oh no, Evelyn's absolutely trash. I hate that jungler."
Yeah, it really is dependent on the individual jungler. I know there are a variety of builds that people choose to do. I've seen Brutalize for Evelyn, I've seen Runeglaive Evelyn, I've seen Full Tank Evelyn. So I suppose different junglers will have different preferences. Arguably, the most burst probably comes from Runeglaive.
R.I.P. DFG.
R.I.P. DFG. Those are the good days. Mid lane Evelyn, rush DFG.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so the build on Evelyn really depends on the individual, so we'll see how that goes. But interesting, we saw from the side of Emotion, they decided to insta-lock the Nidalee, arguably one of the strongest junglers in the current meta, or has been debated, thanks to Runeglaive. So clearly a preference pick for them. But it is interesting that Gragas and Rek'Sai both currently open. We saw a lot of that last weekend. Rek'Sai and Gragas, I believe, were in almost every single game, unless they were banned. So the fact that Rek'Sai and Gragas both made it through is quite interesting. But quite a few picks have come out that we haven't got. Alistair Tristana we see, as well as the Gnar. So Gnar, very safe top laner, works in a lot of different team comps, provide both very strong kiting and very hard engage, as well as the Alistair and Tristana. Tristana's seen a lot of popularity these days, as well as Alistair being incredibly strong support. So at the moment, we can see a very strong team fight composition coming out from the side of Critical Esports.
But look at the poke composition that's just sort of rounded out with that Varus pick on the side of Gaming Emotion. I mean, Varus has been a champion that has been kind of on and off in that mid lane. We've seen a lot of people going for kind of either the Kog'Maw or the Jace instead of the Varus. Obviously, with Varus, you don't have any kind of innate escape before you get your ultimate, and even your ultimate then, it's only going to snare immediately one person. So it is a very, not immobile, that's not the right word, but low mobility pick for that mid lane. Very, very gankable.
Yeah, you can definitely apply a lot of pressure early, especially with a champion like Evelyn. They can abuse the poor mobility coming out from Varus, especially in those early levels. So it will be up to Scudsy on this jungle Nidalee to ward fairly heavily. Obviously, they're going to have to invest in a lot of early pink wards against the Eva's green wards. Won't be as effective, but that shouldn't be a problem. We saw a lot of good vision control coming out from the teams last week. A lot of early pinks and a lot of early greens, so hopefully the teams can keep that up. That's the words I was looking for. But I imagine in Motion this week, last week they had a bit of a disappointing performance, I think more towards themselves. So I think they're looking to redeem themselves with this best of 3. I really think that they do have a very strong poke composition. Last week we saw a bit of a mix and match out of their comp. They had no real aim. This week it looks like they've come together. And you can see the Jax works very well with their composition because they have nice disengage with the form of Jax.
So he might be able to go for something, but Keys has just
meanwhile in the bottom lane.
In the bottom lane, we do see the engage coming in from Yummy. The Valkyrie is going to be enough to get Wing away though, and they're not going to be able to finish anything off. The exhaust was used though from Pez, so they're going to be able to grab that summoner spell for themselves. But this could well be dragon control for Critical Esports. They're deciding they don't want to pressure that one too early though.
Yeah, that was... you can see this early pressure coming out from Evelyn already. Meanwhile, in the top, we do have Scudsy moving in, but it does look like they're just trying to shove the wave in to enable Keys to go back. Or maybe they're going for a bit of a dive. No, it doesn't look that way. But in the bottom lane, we can see the nice early pressure coming out from Evelyn, doing exactly what Chris needs to do, and they managed to get the exhaust out of Pez. So that's a really nice summoner spell used in the early game. But Chris needs to keep this pressure up on Evelyn. He needs to be getting deep vision down. He needs to be constantly getting his laners ahead as much as he can to deny this poke composition. So...
Meanwhile, while he's been getting all this pressure down, look at Scudsy's farm. 41 CS at 8 minutes as a jungler is insane. So Chris has been sort of, I don't know, they're kind of trading off. Obviously Chris has had a little bit more pressure around the map, but Scudsy is by no means behind. And if you take a look at the gold, Scudsy is actually 400 gold ahead of his jungle counterpart. And he's going to be going into the enemy jungle, picks up the red buff. And Chris is going to be red buffless unless he goes for the trade right now, but he doesn't even know it's happened.
Yeah, he's unaware that his red buff has been stolen. So nice invade from Scudzy, but he's already completed his Runeglaive. So if Evelyn were in the area to try and contest that red buff, he'd probably be in a little bit of trouble. Meanwhile, Scudzy might just spot out Chris.
He's seen him. He just got the exclamation mark there. He's looking to chase onto this one. He's going to get the red buff slow. He's looking for the catch here. And Chris taking a huge chunk of damage. He's going to go down. And Scudzy just picks up the solo kill.
Meanwhile, the ultimate does go down onto Fatal, but it does look like he's going to ghost out of there, no problem. But yeah,
look at the damage.
I'm surprised Chris decided to hold his ultimate. If he'd used it, he would have had a much better chance of winning that fight. But regardless, as I said earlier, he has the Runeglaive completed. So trying to fight against this Evelyn at this point, trying to fight against the Nidalee, sorry, at this point is not the best decision. But yeah, very smart from Scudzy to realize that he has an item advantage, he has a level advantage, and he's abusing that by walking into Evelyn's jungle and applying as much pressure. Meanwhile, they are going to take away this Drake largely uncontested.
They certainly are, and we just see the AD carry coming up slowly, but not even going to be needed as they pick up that first dragon of the game. So 2-2 on the scoreboard, 1 dragon to 0, and the gold just 700 difference right now, really. Just kind of going either way at this point in the game. Obviously, the 2 kills on either side. 2 in the hands of the jungler for Gaming in Motion. But then we've got 1 on the jungler and 1 on the top laner for the side of Critical Esports. So no kills on the carries just yet. But obviously, you could argue that Nidalee jungle and Evelyn jungle can pretty much turn into carries.
Yeah, especially after it looks like that Chris has decided to go for this Runeglaive Evelyn build. As I mentioned earlier, there are a number of options available depending on your preference as an Evelyn player, but it does look like they're going to go for the AP sort of build. So as a result, I do hope that Soloi in the top lane builds tankier to compensate for that lack of tankiness coming out from Chris on the Evelyn, but we'll have to see. He has started with a Giant's Belt, and he has managed to accumulate a nice CS lead. We did earlier see him solo kill out Keys, which enabled him to build this nice early advantage. So Soloi having a really nice time up in the top lane, and hopefully he does decide to build. I wouldn't be surprised to see him build a Randuin's, especially against a Jax that heavily relies on attack speed for his main source of damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Jax is one of those champions that really isn't as effective as you'd want him to be until you've sort of finished 1 or 2 items. Once you get that Triforce, you do get a spike of power, but even then, you're sort of weaker than a lot of other top laners, and you kind of rely on having at least 2 items. But then, obviously, it's all a big trade-out. By the time you get to the later stages of the game, 6-item Jax is absolutely terrifying to have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, well, once he's completed his Triforce, as you said, he does get a nice big power spike, and he can become a terror at that point, but it depends on how well his early laning phase goes, which we did see Scudzy try and apply that early pressure to get him ahead, but unfortunately it just hasn't paid off, and Gnar is actually a fantastic champion for applying that pressure onto Keys, for giving him a very difficult laning phase. Meanwhile, we do see Chris hanging around bottom lane. The summoner spells are back up now for the bottom lane of In Motion, and I do wonder whether or not they'll be able to pull anything off.
They're going for the engage onto Pairs. The nice Monsoon is going to get him safe for a while, though, as the exhaust comes down. Pasha going to get counter-exhausted immediately, and damage traded across, but nothing going to come from this one. So that's the second time now that Chris has come down for a gank in the bottom lane, but Soloi could be the one in trouble here as he turns into Mega Gnar underneath that tower. Should be relatively safe. This would be a risky dive with that Gnar ultimate available. Looks like they're going to decide that this isn't something they want to dive for. They're just going to be happy with the tower, and Soloi just runs a mile from that one.
Yeah, smart decision from Soloi. He recognized how strong Scudzy is at level 9 at this point already with the completed Runeglaive, heading towards the tier build. So definitely building towards heavily AP as we go on to the later stages. But he recognized that he was going to get dived there. Back off, giving away the tower. Meanwhile, in the middle lane, Chris going aggressive on the Recycle.
Certainly is. He's going for the 1v1. The Ghost is going to be forced out of Recycle in that situation. So nice pressure coming out from Chris again. This is something we've been saying all game so far, is Chris doing a really good job on that Evelyn to force this pressure across the map. And a nice spear from Scudzy is going to spot out Chris, so he doesn't decide to go for that 1v1. Look at the damage already coming out from Scudzy.
Yeah, with the level advantage, item advantage, he's just so incredibly strong right now. I mean, he's level 9. He's keeping up with the solo laners, and with 2 kills on himself, he's definitely in a position. Meanwhile, oh, aggression from Victor.
Do you see Scudzy jumping over the wall? Chaos Storm not landing onto anyone there, so Fratel not doing the greatest job there, and did use his Ghost to try and set that one up as well. So not really the greatest of situations. That's going to be a summoner spell used offensively, but not even able to sort of trade. I mean, he did get the flash out from the Nidalee, but I mean, is your mid laner's Ghost worth the jungler's flash, especially when they're playing something like Nidalee and they can just hop everywhere anyway?
Well, that's exactly the question. I mean, will his lack of Ghost hurt him, or will it be an even trade? I mean, Resicle's Ghost is down as well, so it's not that massive of an issue. Both mid laners down a summoner spell. But meanwhile, I keep going on about Scudzy while he does go aggressive in mid.
Oh, Italian's in a lot of trouble. Anything landing will finish that one. Scudzy going to be the one to pick it up with that swipe. That is going to be a pretty much textbook kill in the middle lane. Obviously, Resicle just throws out the ultimate, and Scudzy more than happily will follow that one up with a mid spear. So nice, simple kill for Gaming in Motion Black, and that's going to give them a lot of pressure onto this mid tower. Resicle should be able to finish this one off.
Yeah, this is why I didn't mention it earlier, but in hindsight, it would have been a good decision to go cleanse against Avaris, because the fact that if he lands that ultimate, he does have crowd control in the middle lane for an extremely long time, setting up very nicely for Scudzy to land a spear, just as we saw. So a little bit poor choice in summoner spell perhaps, but IMB Fratel probably recognizes that. Unfortunately, a little bit too late. So we do see now that Scudzy very strong, 79 CS, 3-0 of doing very well in terms of his items, and pretty much holding the vast majority of the gold lead for Gaming in Motion. So I expect Scudzy, that was a first pick insta-lock Nidalee, so definitely a comfort champion coming out. Meanwhile, we do see Resicle charging the arrow around the dragon. Wonder if there'll be a bit of contention coming out.
Now both teams obviously have the timer for this one. In the current patch, the timer is going to be sort of global, so even if you don't get sight of it going down, you're going to know when it's going to come up again. So both teams know full well that this is available. They're going to be wanting to contest for this one, but the poke already starting to do work. As we see up in the top lane, he's going to get aggressed upon, but he's going to be able to walk away. And with Chris Senpai up in that top lane, this should be a guaranteed dragon for Gaming Motion Black. So well played by Keys to escape that gank. Just so much global control right now.
Yeah, they do get the flash out of Keys, which is always a great thing, but in return they're going to lose the second dragon. So definitely worth it from the side of In Motion. Gaining that dragon will only put them in a good position towards that 5 dragon win condition that at this point they honestly don't need, because Scudzy's so strong. They just need to group up and start sieging. I mean, well, meanwhile, oh, Chris flashes over!
He does indeed, and completely missed that one, but he is going to be able to pick up the kill. Resicle does a really good job to finish that one off with the piercing arrow, just doing so much damage. And right now, this Varus is starting to look scary. All this pressure that's been coming into the mid lane from Scudzy. Look at the spear damage coming out from that Nidalee. That is ridiculous. Half of the enemy mid laner's HP. He can literally push Fratel out of lane in 2 abilities. 2 abilities. That is absolutely insane from a jungler. So doing an absolutely incredible job. Has the Abyssal Scepter as well already. So his damage, and not only his damage, but also how much damage he can take from Fratel is going to be just so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, it's also good itemization against this full AP Evelyn. So nice itemization. He does recognize that he's going to be the one jumping in up close and can easily apply that passive from the Abyssal Scepter. Meanwhile, we do see Yummy perhaps caught out a little bit.
He's going to start this one off. The mid laner and jungler are on their way, but Pez is looking for the Tristana as he knocks back Yummy with the Monsoon. They're going to be looking to go onto Pasha though. The damage is starting to come down. Exhaust is used, popped immediately. Resicle picks that one up. There's the ultimate, and that is going to be a second kill coming through for Gaming in Motion, and just a perfect rotation down from them. The mid and jungle comes to the lane. This is going to guarantee them a bot tower.
Yeah, we can see, like, they had all of their summoners up. I'm really surprised that Critical Esports decided not to use all of their summoners to get out of that situation. Instead, they do hand over 2 kills to the side of Gaming in Motion. That's just going to snowball their lead even further. I mean, They do lose the mid tower, but in return they're going to get a tier 2 bot tower, which they might even push on to go for the tier 3. Maybe that's what they'll contest for. They do have the type of composition great for sieging. I do wonder whether or not they're going to keep on going.
See, they look to be doing so far. They might just push this under tower though, and then back away. I wouldn't be too surprised.
In the top
Looks
lane.
like they are going for it. In the top lane, we do see Keys is going to get taken out. They're not happy to dive that one through, but
Yummy goes
could
in.
be in trouble. The armor is going to be shredded
Whoa.
by that Gatling gun. The spear threads the needle though and dodges both of them, but this is going to be a 19-minute bottom lane inhibitor tower going down. Can they finish this inhibitor? If they do, this will be game-breaking for them. In the meantime, Evelyn gets a top lane tower, but a tier 1 tower is just not worth the trade as Rital goes in onto Scudzy. A lot of damage coming through as the headbutt pulverized lands, but Yummy has to use his ultimate to try and escape from this one. Everybody's so low. No one quite going down there.
Yeah, we did see, we saw that they managed to take that bottom inhibitor tower away from the side of Critical Esports. We are going to have a quick replay come up on your screen. We can see Yummy getting very low. They do go aggressive, and this is a beautiful flank from Fatal. Unfortunately, because of the huge amount of magic resist coming out from Fatal, he just manages to survive. Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, we do see they do actually manage to pick up a kill on Scudzy as well as trades for Chris. So,
if anyone wasn't watching that one, that was. Oh, actually, Solo is going very deep. Flashes for the Gnar ultimate onto Wing. Can they finish this one off? It doesn't look like he has the damage, and nobody's there to follow him up. That is going to be his flash and his ultimate on cooldown for basically nothing there. Wing didn't have to use anything.
Yeah, really. It was a nice play by Sirloin. He definitely thought that he could catch Wing out of position, but fortunately Recycle was nearby. He was able to offer support, and they couldn't pick up that kill. But it was an intense fight in the bottom lane, an intense fight in the jungle, but basically it all boils down to the fact that the massive item advantage. Meanwhile, ultimate in the mid!
Oh, Fatal in a lot of trouble. Look at the damage coming out from Recycle. Easily solos out that Victor. Doesn't even take a single point of damage back. And I mean... what do you do in this scenario where the Varus can just comfortably and confidently walk through this mid lane and just take out one of your players? Not even any fear of the enemy team kind of answering for this one, because they have decent vision of the enemy jungle as well.
Yeah, the problem is what they'd want to do is stall and wait to get a few more items on their carries. Like Victor needs a few more items, Tristana needs a few more items, Evelyn needs a few. They all just need more items at this point. But against the siege composition that GIM has, they just can't deal with that, because GIM are constantly applying pressure. We can see Keys constantly pushing in that top lane. Meanwhile, that 4-man main force from the other side are going to keep throwing out this poke while they're trying to sit under tower and farm, and they don't have the resistances to stop it. This is why it was very important for them to shut them down in the early game. They needed to get at least even or do well in the early game, but the fact that they've fallen behind is going to be so difficult for them to stop the siege composition, this heavy poke comp that comes out from the side of Emotion. So maybe they can get a good flank engage off at this point. It does look like they're coming out on the side.
Emotion need to decide whether to go for this inhibitor or whether to back away right now, because the fight is about to start and it looks like they're not going to get either, but their teleport is going to come through from Keys as Passion gets exploded. Yummy on this front line with the Unbreakable Will. He's just not tanking enough though, and that is going to be the double kill coming through for the AD carry. Wing doing absolute work for this one, flying through to victory as he picks up the triple kill. This is going to be the inhibitor. This could even be the game. Are they going to be able to push for this one? 22 minutes in. They're looking to end this one very early, and Emotion Black with their new lineup looking to make a statement in this first game of the best of 3. Taking down the second in Nexus tower. I was going to say inhibitor because it was so early, but it is going to be the Nexus falling. And Gaming Emotion Black looking incredibly strong in this first game. Yeah,
wow, taking the Nexus already at 22 minutes. So very impressive performance from the side of Emotion, but we do have to give all that credit basically to Scudzy. The amount of pressure that he got early, the early snowball that he managed to accumulate, enabled